Be with us both on MSNBC and all across the nation. Kenny Brown,
the most dominant co-host in the game.
Hey, Mitch! The longest-running afternoon show in Detroit radio. The Mitch Albom Show starts now.
Sitting in for Mitch, here's Kevin Dietz.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. Joe Biden will be the 46th president of the United States of America. His inauguration and swearing in will be on January the 20th. At 3:41 this morning, Vice President Mike Pence put out the statement, Pence certifying that President-elect Joe Biden and Vice President-elect Kamala Harris won the 2020 presidential election. This after a dark, sad, and deadly day at the U.S. Capitol. Joining us now is Andy Levin, the U.S. Representative for Michigan's 9th Congressional District. Welcome back to the show, Andy.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate it. You guys stayed into the early hours of the morning to finish your work. How important was it for everybody to stay at it, to go right back to it, and to finish this event?
That just was what I was bound and determined to do, Kevin. I didn't ever think about doing anything else. Of course, I don't run the place, but I think it shows that that the leadership, Speaker Pelosi, Leader Hoyer, everybody agreed that we weren't about to let an insurrection against democracy stop us from carrying out our work and ratifying the Electoral College vote that was, should have just been a formality, but obviously turned into a very sad day for our democracy.
Yeah, I think the imagery for the country was good, that everybody stayed and didn't say, all right, well, let's come back tomorrow and pick this up again. I thought it was a good message, and I was glad that everyone did stay and finished up. You've had a few hours to kind of think about what happened in the last 24, 48 hours. How do you see it today as you look back on what happened?
Well, Kevin, the president of the United States incited a mob to go try to carry out an insurrection against our democracy and stop the Congress from carrying out our work of certifying who the next president would be, because he didn't like what the answer was going to be. And that's so far outside the bounds of democracy. It's literally been since 1812. What's that? 200 and, however many years, 209 years or something, since the Capitol was breached like that. That was during the War of 1812. And the idea that it happened at the instigation of our own president, it's a shocking thing. It's a shocking thing, and it's a very sad day for our country in many different ways.
Was he pushing Republicans to object, a last-minute push, even though it wasn't going his way, or was he inciting a mob?
Well, he was certainly inciting a mob. I mean, I think there are two things, right? There's this idea of the physical attack on the Capitol and interfering with our work, but then there's the idea of trying to undo the votes of millions of people. So they ended up formally objecting to Arizona and Pennsylvania. They were going to object to more states, but after the violence, some of the senators backed down from joining the members of the House, about Georgia and Michigan and, Nevada, but I guess Wisconsin. So they just did those 2 states instead of 6. But even if it was 1 state, what they were saying was, even though all of this had been investigated, even though all of it had been overseen by bipartisan clerks and volunteers, even though it had been litigated in the courts and certified by all 50 states, they wanted to come in and throw out the votes of millions of Americans so that Donald Trump could continue to be president, even though he didn't win the election. I mean, that would be the end of our 212-year or 232-year experiment here with constitutional democracy, and we just couldn't let it happen, obviously.
There's now talk about taking action against the president. People are talking about impeachment. They're talking about invoking the 25th. Do you support either of those actions or some other action?
I support both of them. I think the president showed himself to be unfit. This is not really a partisan view. Many important groups in the business community and in civil society are calling for this. For example, the National Association of Manufacturers, which wouldn't be considered like a real democratic leaning group, even though I have many friends who, among the leaders in manufacturing. They're calling for the 25th Amendment to be invoked. We will be issuing articles of impeachment. I mean, I'm a practical person. I don't know, whether we'll be able to get either or both of those things done, but I can tell you there are people in the administration talking about the need to invoke the 25th Amendment. And, we're having discussions with a wide-ranging groups of Democrats and Republicans about impeachment. The president not only incited the mob yesterday, but he said, "I'll be there with you," which was a lie. He wasn't going down to the Capitol, but he went back to the White House and watched this, I guess, with glee as people attacked the seat of our democracy. And then he refused to call in the National Guard. We had to work with other people in the administration, including the vice president, to secure the United States Capitol. I mean, there's just even saying that. Kevin, I don't think I'm quite, out of shock about it.
Well, did someone tell you that he was gleeful about what he was seeing? I find that hard to believe. I don't think anyone could be gleeful about what was happening.
Well, look at his statement that he issued when he said everyone should go home, and he said, "I'm with you. I love you. You're great patriots." I mean, what does that mean? To say, it's just like saying they're fine people on both sides when neo-Nazis had marched and spewed "Jews will not replace us" and racist slogans and carried torches in Charlottesville. And then, here people were in, there are pictures in the mob of people with anti-Semitic slogans, racist slogans on their T-shirts, carrying Confederate flags in the Capitol of the Union. We're the Union side. So
today, Donald Trump put out a statement that said there will be an orderly transition on January 20th. Do you see that happening?
Oh, definitely. And he didn't have any say in the matter anyway. There's nothing in our Constitution or laws that says that the president has to concede or, gets to decide, right? It's the American people that decide. And I think it's been clear for some time that the vast majority of people in our military, in our national security establishment, in the, a lot of the leadership of the Republican Party, as well as the Democratic Party, understand that we need to move ahead with our democracy. So let me take this opportunity to say, a lot of Republicans voted against the efforts to overturn the election. And so that's a good thing. Some from Michigan, Fred Upton, John Molinar, our new colleague Peter Meyer. Hats off to them for not succumbing to the pressure, I guess, to support, someone who would become a dictator.
Well, there are a lot of calls for unity, if not unity, civility. Hopefully we can do that as we move forward. We will be watching. It's going to be a tense few days up there as security is increased. Andy Levin, we appreciate you coming on the Mitch Albom Show today.
Thank you so much. Take care of yourself.
All right. We're going to take a quick break on the Mitch Albom Show to check traffic with Michael Stetz.
Thank you very much, Kevin. In the city, road construction has the right lane closed right now on 75 southbound between Verner Highway and Springwell Street. That construction scheduled through January 29th. In Oakland County, road construction on the 75 northbound Service Drive between 696 and Lincoln Avenue. That single lane closure scheduled through early March. And in Wayne County, an accident on 275 southbound after Michigan Avenue. That's blocking the left 2 lanes. You're stop and go right now from Ford Road. Now Wjr Weather first from the Weather Channel.
High 35 degrees with those north winds. Low tonight 27. Northeast winds Friday, partly cloudy, high 32. And partly cloudy Saturday, near 40.
Talk 760 WJR.
Last night when they went back on the floor and voted, I was like, I didn't think they would. But it makes sense because the Capitol wasn't going to be any more secure at any time in the future than it was last night after they cleared all the protesters out.
I think also going right to it, it probably did cause a lot of people who were going to object not to object. If they had gone back and regrouped and thought about it and talked to people, it might have
Had a
been,
night, yeah.
Several of them, the senators didn't sign, so they announced the objection. And I was watching the coverage. I made it till about 2:30 after they went back to deal with Pennsylvania after those objections. Right. And I was like, my goodness, if there's one more, I mean, we'll be going till Sunday.
Yeah, I was trying to stay awake, much like New Year's Eve. I was trying to stay awake till Pennsylvania. And then I woke up in the middle of Pennsylvania. I'm like, okay, I'll read my news alerts in the morning.
Did you see the two senators almost threw hands? Like it was the former.
What is this, Parliament?
Yeah, the former Titans guy. I mean, I was like, buddy, you are barking up the wrong tree. So,
Mark, good to see you.
And Pelosi was banging the gavel, like trying to get order in the House. It was a little tense there for a minute.
Paul, you missed a thing or two. Stay tuned. We'll update you. You ever think anyone's ever broken that gavel trying to get order?
It's a good question. I have to imagine at some point.
Yeah,
probably.
They should have an air horn, I think.
It's just crazy because there were seven senators and 90 or 100 some odd total that objected, even though it's completely certified and 50 still. Like I just can't wrap my head around that. That's the message we're sending here.
Yeah, my guess is they were probably Congress people from heavily pro-Trump districts.
Well, I think there was a chance. I don't know if their intentions were this good, but there was an opportunity for the 75 million people who voted for Trump to hear a debate and then say, okay, there's nothing there. I feel better about the election. I mean, because I don't know how Trump voters feel today. I don't know if they still feel the same or if they feel any different.
I mean, half of them don't pay attention to actually how a functioning democracy works. So, like it's rigged. Well, I mean, I heard that all day.
Yeah,
they were protesting because the election's rigged. It's like what election? The election that was certified in all 50 states? That one?
Right. I mean, I think there's a constituents out there that'll never be satisfied. But here we're back here.
You're listening to the Mitch Albom Show on the great voice of the Great Lakes, 760 WJR. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
Donald Trump put out a statement today saying, quote, even though I totally disagree with the outcome of the election and the facts bear me out, nevertheless, there will be an orderly transition on January 20th. I have always said we would continue our fight to ensure that only legal votes were counted. While this represents the end of the greatest first term in presidential history, it's only the beginning of our fight to make America great again. Joining us on the line now is Peter Meyer, Michigan's 3rd Congressional District. Welcome back to the Mitch Albom Show.
Thank you so much for having me on.
Congratulations on being elected. A pretty crazy first week for you.
Yeah, I've had... even when I was working in Afghanistan, I don't think my first week was this chaotic. So, hopefully it'll only get more stable from here. But just what a sad day yesterday was.
Yeah, it was. And, now that you've had a little bit of time to think about it and get a little more information, what is your takeaway of what happened yesterday?
We can look at it through a couple of lenses. Obviously, from a logistical security standpoint, it was a failure. I give a lot of credit to the rank and file Capitol Police and other law enforcement who helped us, get to a secure location as we were being evacuated from the House chambers. And I guess that's one thing that maybe wasn't, very clear or people may not appreciate. Both the Senate and the House, we were in session when the Capitol was assaulted. We had to barricade ourselves in the House chambers. We had to don inhalation hoods because of the concerns about tear gas and pepper spray and kind of other airborne threats that might be there. We were told by the Capitol Police to take shelter behind chairs and then anything else that might stop a bullet. because they were worried that folks would start shooting into those chambers. And then we had to flee. We had to, rapidly evacuate, with police officers with guns drawn to a secure location nearby. So it's hard to understate, just the chaos and the pandemonium of yesterday. But more broadly, I'm just, this didn't have to happen. This should not have happened. There were people who were spreading lies, who were spreading falsehoods, who were making claims that were simply not true, that were provably false, that they knew were not true. They egged on a group of folks, and instead of telling them a hard truth, they told the easy lie. And 4 people are dead. Dozens of law enforcement officials were assaulted. Several are still in the hospital, a few with critical injuries. Again, this was just a sad day for the country, a sad day for the republic, and one that we have to reckon with. We have to account for, and we have to hold those responsible to justice.
You have a couple of different issues here. You on one side, it shouldn't have happened because we should have been better prepared. There should have been a better plan. The Capitol should be protected. This probably should have been one of the things that was talked about as a possibility, knowing everything we knew. But you also are bringing up an issue about, did people come with the intent of doing this, and were they incited? What role, if any, do you think the rally had, either having the rally at that time, at that place, or what was said on the stage yesterday?
Oh, I think that played a pivotal role. I mean, that fanned the flames. In terms of, were people planning to do this? I mean, I'm not going to. I think there were, plenty of folks who showed up and were planning on protesting peacefully, but there were also people who showed up armed, who showed up with zip ties, right? Some of the folks who came into that chamber. I mean, zip ties are a very cheap way. They're called flexi cuffs. You do that to take hostages, right? This could have been a lot worse, and we are lucky that there are not more people dead. We're lucky that we were able to reconvene a few hours later and send a strong message, that an act of domestic terrorism is not going to prevent Congress from fulfilling its constitutional responsibilities. But I was sitting in my office watching the president give a speech to the crowd, continuing to say that this election had been stolen, continuing to say that he had won in a landslide, continuing to lie and deceive people who trusted him. That to me is it. I don't have the words, because as we saw those crowds march up, I mean, what I talked to people that I knew were there, they felt that what they were doing was a patriotic duty of storming the Capitol, right? And how we've gotten to a point where we are living in such clearly alternate sets of realities, right? Alternate sets of facts. That is not something that a nation can sustain. And we have to rebuild that trust.
It does seem in the last year that seems to be the answer. When somebody's unhappy, race out to the streets and break something, race to the Capitol and bust windows, do whatever you want every time you're upset. And that's clearly not the message we want. That's not how we want to voice our opinions in our protests. Do you believe that some action should be taken against the president for what you've described so far?
There are obviously discussions that are ongoing. I would not be surprised if the House is called back. We've seen a number of resignations from the administration. I don't know what's going to happen next, but I mean, to pretend like yesterday didn't happen. And I have some colleagues who did. I have some colleagues who right now are trying to blame Antifa and Black Lives Matter for what happened yesterday, right? I do not understand how, you can be so, if they truly believe, again, easily discreditable, easily disproven theories that they're trying to put out, if they truly believe that is a sad commentary on some of our elected officials. And if they don't, that's even worse. I mean, that just shows a level of cynicism and opportunism that is just contemptible. So again, I could not be more disappointed. The past 24 hours, there have been some folks that, I've had political disagreements and I don't, have, similar policy stances on, but who really showed themselves to be, their mettle was tested and they showed themselves to be leaders. And then there are other people that I thought better of, that I did, truly believe that I thought they respected the Constitution, that they respected the sacred oath that they swore to protect and defend it. And it's clear that, for many political careers and whatever is most advantageous to getting reelected, that supersedes all else.
Did you see President-elect Biden's comments today, and did you think they had the right tone? Was he calling for unity, or was he firing up his base?
I can't speak to that. I didn't see his comments earlier. I slept in my office last night, got in around 5 a.m. from the chambers, and then went back to our apartment here to take a brief shower and get some food. So I can't say that I'm as up to speed on some of the reflections and commentary as I would like to be.
No problem. Well, hopefully the next 13 days will be more peaceful. There's a lot of new security going in. There's going to be some 7-foot fences around the Capitol, a lot happening. Hopefully it will be a time of peace between now and inauguration and then beyond that. We appreciate it, Peter Meyer, coming on the Mitch Albom Show today.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Yep. Happy New Year. We'll take a quick break. Let's check traffic with Michael Stetz.
This report is sponsored by Dell.
New year, new budgets. Every small business has unique needs. When you partner with a Dell Technologies advisor, you get real-time tailored advice. Plus, right now, get special financing with Dell Business Credit and big savings on select business computers with Intel Core processors. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
Yeah, in the city, an accident on 75 southbound at the Rouge River Bridge that has the left lane blocked. Traffic moving slowly right now from Dearborn Street. Traffic also moving slowly in Oakland County on 75 northbound between 696 and 11 Mile. And in Wayne County, an accident on 275 southbound after Michigan Avenue that has the left 2 lanes blocked. You're stop and go right now from Ann Arbor Road. Now WJR weather first. From the Weather Channel, sponsored by Primetime Testing Laboratory. They offer complete automotive testing services. Primetime guarantees on-time delivery, accurate result reporting, and are A2LA accredited. For your next automotive project, hire Primetime Testing Lab. Get a free quote at primetimetestinglab.com. That's primetimetestinglab.com. Cloudy heading into tonight with a low of 27. Partly cloudy for Friday with a high tomorrow of 32. Right now it's 35 degrees. I'm Michael Stetz, WJR News in 2 minutes.
How did we ever come to the belief that we have no control over the inevitability?
What up?
Dave says he has a new Yiddish word for us since we coined this little round table we do, the kibitz. So I wanted to be as surprised as the rest of you, so I told him to save it. So let's hear it, Dave.
Yeah, today's Yiddish word is muchkin.
Muchkin?
Muchkin. So
it sounds like a food, like a punchki or a glumki.
What it means is like when you're kind of like messing with something, or you're kind of like, like prodding at something, poking at something. Stop muchkin.
It's not when you borrow money from a friend. Like, I'm muchkin money off of you.
That's muchkin.
Dave, you need to give me a heads up so I can make a graphic for stuff like this.
Yes.
Here's the graphic.
There we go.
Yes, the Kibitz Corner.
Nice.
Hey, it's bedazzled too. Lauren must have had a.
Wow.
I made a scrapbook of Christmas memories for my wife for Christmas with like.
Mike, I'm gonna make you full screen. Go ahead and put that thing up to the camera.
Kibitz.
Wow.
You said you were up till 2 watching politics. I think you're up till 2 working on your.
Well, I made a scrapbook for my wife for Christmas. Of old photos throughout the years because it was our 10th Christmas together. We've been married 2 years, and nice. I had the leftover letters. You guys were saying artwork the other day, so I saw them like I was cleaning up my office, and I was like, "Oh, here we go."
Seth, quit bedazzling the kibitz. Haven't you heard that makes you go blind?
Maybe we'll get some graphics made. I think that's in the. Who's the guy that did the Christmas Carol for us, Mike?
Sean.
We're gonna have to hit him up.
Sean Bobritz.
See if he could do us a solid for the kibitz.
That would be nice. I wish I could maybe repurpose some of the stuff. In the meantime, this will have to do. How do you spell kibitz, Michael?
Kabitz. There it is.
Let's see. Or do you want it to crawl across the bottom of the screen?
Yeah, do the crawl.
Oh, wait, wrong. There we go. Oh, this isn't going the way I thought it would. Let me try this again.
I love StreamYard. I haven't played around with it yet.
Kevin, your next guest is on hold, ready to go.
Okay, great. We'll get right to him.
There it is.
David, clean shaven this week? What's going on?
Yeah, I
have a job interview.
Lost a bet.
I would have
got a court date.
I would have debuted this yesterday, but we were preempted by breaking news.
Same with the. Oh, thank you, Patrick.
High praise.
Wow, that is high praise. I don't know if I could accept that, but I appreciate it. Rich is another level of entertainment. But.
Someone asked why Rich didn't have a background today. The question is because he's not here, but I don't know which one of us he thought was Rich.
Interesting.
Yeah, Mark.
Oh, I think that's more for you, Stets, because I think we talked about this.
Yeah, no background. I have to get a green screen. When I'm in studio, I had some fun ones. I had like Roadhouse and.
I think your green walls might actually work.
But not quite green, but.
I would say give it a shot.
I have my wife's ring light here, which adds different colors.
Ooh, wow.
With the blue.
I would be afraid it would suck my Wi-Fi and lose connection.
Right.
I like the blue
Everything says it's like this with his green screen.
Oh man.
A ring light, huh?
Yeah, it helps with the light in the room when it's dim in here.
Right. Right, because as you can see, with us, we all look really pasty. We could probably all use a ring light.
If I turn it off, I'm kind of dark.
Right.
So.
I like that. I actually kind of like it. You're sort of like a Cape Crusader traffic person.
Like this, right? Ring light.
Yeah, it's a little bit bigger than that, the one Lauren has. And it's got a little push button deal. You can just click the settings and change the brightness.
Yeah, this thing. When we tried it the other day, it just kind of first of all, you can't see on the screen because it's so bright.
Yeah, this one has a bright up and down. So
and number two, it kind of just makes it it makes it too white.
And then this kind of makes me look like I'm doing a conspiracy theory show. Wait
I like it.
I need to take a minute to acknowledge Dave's little bag of stuff. Like you wonder how Santa gets all these presents into his bag, but you literally say an appliance or a gadget, and Dave has it in that backpack.
Yeah. What does he call them? Goggles? What do you call them, Dave?
It's my tchotchkes.
No. The little like plugs and adapters, doggles.
Oh, dongles.
Dongles.
That is an industry name. Dongles.
Quit bedazzling your dongles, Dave.
That is an industry name. The Apple dongles. Yes.
Wow.
We've got plenty of them.
Stets has a new fan.
Oh. Yes, I was a silver fox. That is true. If I grew my hair in, it would be silver, but
I gotta say, those throwback pics of Stets with dark hair.
Yeah.
I could just say, "Hey, shut up in your face." That's how I imagine that Stets used to talk when he had hair.
And now I've aged like a president. Yeah.
It was a rough run.
We're aging like skim milk.
Yeah, the Tanya Roberts pick was 2003, so that's 18 years ago. So.
Bring out the perfectly folded poster again for us.
Right.
For those of you who missed it.
Right. Go back and watch.
Mike was impressed. Like you knew exactly. Like you could went and grab. Like we were going to talk about it. It was there.
I gave Parsons the picture to put up on the kibitz. I don't know if he has it, but I gave him
you
the picture.
texted it to me. I can't. The only way I can do that is just holding it up to the.
Oh, you can't upload to the computer and then.
That's a lot of work. Okay, here we're back.
Their lives, creating a better and stronger community.
You're listening to the Mitch Albom Show on the great voice of the Great Lakes, 760 WJR. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
Joining us now is Detroit Police Chief James Craig. Chief, thanks for giving us a few minutes today.
Hey, not a problem, Kevin. Glad to be here.
Yeah, it was a dark and difficult day in the nation's capital yesterday. I know there's still so many unanswered questions about how security broke down and where we go from here to keep people safe. Just wanted to get your thoughts on what you saw and what you're seeing.
Yeah, I've been talking about this both locally and nationally all day, and it is a dark day. It's so disappointing to see what these domestic terrorists did to try to undermine our democracy. Horrible. But it was clear to me when I saw the individuals taking over the Capitol, marching in without being stopped. First thing that came to mind was poor planning. And I got to applaud the D.C. Police Department, because I thought when they were notified, they came in, tried to restore order. It was already a riotous situation. They went in, made, I want to say 68 arrests, but also 58 of the officers got injured. One is still recovering from his injuries as we speak. So I applaud that department, but I got to say, the Capitol Police, where was the response initially? I saw retreating. And then let's talk about, and this is the thing that's so frustrating for me, Kevin, there was loss of life. There was a woman, whether you agree with her politics or not is not the issue. Fact is, she was there, she got shot. And the only statement that came out simply said that the Capitol Police fired a weapon and they administered aid, and that's it. What does that mean? As a municipal police chief, and I can say this on behalf of all my colleagues across the country, that would not pass muster, Kevin. I couldn't get up and say, we stopped someone, gun went off, person died as a result. That would never pass. And the community has come to expect transparency. And we all recognize that sometimes early on in these things, we may not have all of the facts, but we still don't know what happened. What about her family, her husband? And whether we agree with her actions yesterday, was she an imminent threat to those Capitol Police officers? Maybe she was. Maybe she had a weapon. I've not heard that, but no one is talking from an executive or leadership position in that organization. They owe it to us as American citizens.
Well, we both know this could have been a lot worse. And when people say, well, who could have seen this coming? Well, a lot of people should have seen this coming. We saw a similar activity
They
like this.
knew. Kevin, they knew. I knew this. Let me just say this to you, Kevin. They knew. I'm in Detroit. Do you know we had planned? Despite not having any indication that we were going to have problems here in Detroit, my staff, we were ready to respond if there was an issue, even though there was no indication anywhere. And so I'm not going to give them a pass, number one. Two, but we continue to not address this lady who's dead. Now, let's change the dynamic. What if this shooting happened in Detroit? And what if it was an unarmed black man or an unarmed black woman? Would you want to talk to me about the facts of what took place? Would you want to know? I would say yes. And that's my point. And I'm not justifying anything. I'm just saying the Capitol Police, like our municipal police, regardless, a life is gone. Do we owe it to that family? Do we owe it to the American public to say, what happened? Why wasn't there an appropriate response to prevent these people from coming into the Capitol? Why wasn't it? And maybe we'll find out weeks, maybe months, depending on the bureaucratic timetable in the U.S. government, because we're talking about a federal agency. I come out with a statement within 24 hours or even less. Remember Hakeem Littleton? I was there within an hour of that shooting, and I put out a very factual account. And it was the folks that had another narrative to put it out right after I got done, and I had to put out a video to refute that. We all remember that in Detroit. Detroiters have lined up and support this department. So help me understand.
Do you think someone made a specific call not to have more people there, not to put more fencing up, to have more?
You know, Kevin, I don't know, but the journalists and I saw a press conference today in Washington D.C. And again, I'm gonna say it again. I applaud the D.C. Metro Police Department. Certainly, my prayers go out to those officers who were injured, especially the one who's still recovering. Prayers go out to the family of that slain woman that was there. But what was interesting, no media person asked the question, what happened relative to the woman that was shot?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy that we don't know yet if she was coming through the window, if she was armed. We don't know if she was still. I mean, there's so many unanswered questions that would have had the people involved would have been interviewed immediately.
Well, we would know that early on. I know facts early on, and I push it out. What I'm saying is, the American people want to know. How come the media doesn't ask and demand that they put out a written statement and that's sufficient and we're okay with that? Is her husband okay with that? I'm not certain if she has children. And whether we agree with her politics, whether we agree, why did she have to go there? She was an American who served our country. And, you know, I would like to know, I hope you would, but nobody wants to ask the question.
Or they're not answering it. I gotta believe that we will hear what happened. There were people who were there.
3 weeks from now?
I hope not. I mean, because
if this was Detroit and my officers used failed force, when would you expect me to respond to that?
Well, you'd need to respond immediately. Otherwise, we could have more problems, and that's the problem there. If they're not transparent, then the next 13 days could be very, very rough.
But do you see the comparison I'm making?
Oh, I do.
I mean, I'm not arguing with you, Kevin. I mean, you're wonderful. I think I know you would ask the right questions. I've had the privilege of whether you were in television and now on radio. You would ask the right question, but it's just
the media's been weak. Hey, the media's been weak for this whole year. It's been very difficult to watch a lot of what's going on with questions not getting asked. The media needs to step up. They definitely have a role in a lot of this, and in inciting people, as you know. I mean, you guys had protests on the streets of Detroit that could have got out of hand, and Detroit did not get out of hand. And that a lot of that's because of the relationship you have with the media, and the media trusting that you're telling the truth and not hiding stuff. All right, Chief, the music's up. Thank you very much for coming on. We appreciate your words.
Okay, thank you.
All right. You're listening to the Mitch Albom Show. We'll take a quick break and check traffic with Michael Stetz.
This report is sponsored by Dell.
New year, new budgets. Every small business has unique needs. When you partner with a Dell Technologies advisor, you get real-time tailored advice. Plus, right now, get special financing with Dell Business Credit and big savings on select business computers with Intel Core processors. Call a Dell Technologies advisor at 877-ASK-DELL.
In Wayne County, an accident on 275 southbound after Michigan Avenue. That's blocking the left 2 lanes. You're stop and go right now from Ann Arbor Road. And downtown in the city, an accident on 75 southbound at the Rouge River Bridge. That's blocking the left lane. You're stop and go right now from Dearborn Street. Now Wjr Weather first. From the Weather Channel, sponsored by North Bloomfield Properties. If you're looking for a place to call home, let North Bloomfield Properties find the best place for you and your family. They also provide pre-screened quality tenants to their property owners. They love to match good people to good homes. Contact them today, northbloomfield.com.
35 our high today with a snowflake or two. Low tonight 27. Friday partly cloudy 32. Saturday partly cloudy 40. I'm meteorologist Scott Laurie. More on News Talk 760 WJR.
Hey Ken, our
Chief always calling it like he sees them.
Yeah, that that is crazy that that information isn't out yet. I mean, wasn't that the first thing you thought of when you heard about the shooting? It's just
Right,
like,
but I think there's a stark difference between the Metro Police and the DC Police.
I just wonder if someone said we're not going to talk about it until, you know, things have calmed down in 48 hours.
Right, but I just think there's a difference with how that information gets brought to the public based on the difference between.
Right. Well, and we've only heard about the one. Well, there's 4 people or 5 people who were killed.
Well, I think 3 people had like health conditions
or medical emergencies.
Yeah.
Like they had a heart or
heart attack. Maybe ambulance couldn't get to them. That
right.
Kind of
They're probably embarrassed because this happened the way that it did, and nobody was prepared.
Right, but I'm just wondering what the protocols are for Capitol Police being White House and federal opposed to.
I think you're probably right normally, but I would think it's something as high profile as this, they would probably want to try to get it out as quick as possible.
Well, I mean, they blundered it big time, so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we're gonna agree on that.
This is a bad. This is not a good look at all.
Yeah, I'm not even sure it was a great. I'm not sure the response was so great after the calls for help went on. It was like 3 hours before a show of force ended up there. I mean, I'm not sure what happened. We'll find out, but it took a long time to get people there to start clearing people out even from the back.
Right, and then I was just confused where they were like ushering them out like they stayed at the bar too long. I mean, like, you broke into federal.
Well, and it depends on who you listen to. I know. Remember, Debbie Dingle came on with you and Guy yesterday,
Right.
Kevin, and said that they asked. I don't know. I think she said that.
She said they called for help and they said no. I think she
right.
said the Pentagon said no.
And then Guy said he read in the Washington Post today that it's the mayor's responsibility to call, and she called for
pre-planning.
Okay, but then once it hits the fan, then it's no longer got it.
Yeah,
I think the fact that there was a delay in response is quite telling, and I
It's disturbing for sure.
Yeah,
here we come.
By Oakland County Health Division.
You're listening to the Mitch Albom Show on the great voice of the Great Lakes, 760 WJR. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
Joining us now is David Dulio, professor of political science at Oakland University. Thanks for being on the show, Dave.
My pleasure, Kevin. Good to talk to you.
What do we tell students about what we're looking at? What are we seeing here politically, and where have we come as a country?
Well, we're at a low point. I think that we've got to be honest about it. You know, yesterday was a sad day in American history. To see the capital of the nation under siege, right? To see the House and Senate chamber almost mocked with the folks that that made entrance into those places and desecrated it. As somebody who spent a lot of time on Capitol Hill, having worked there for a little bit, that's a sacred place for a lot of people, and it was defiled yesterday.
We had a protest. It looked peaceful. There was 35,000 people, I think, allowed into the area where the stage was, and there was many, many more outside of that area. But a protest turned into a crime scene very quickly. How does that happen?
Boy, that's a great question, and I think that there's going to have to be some or many investigations into how it escalated so quickly. It seemed to start out with all those individuals at the rally where the president was speaking, and it went off. It seemed like many others, and and then it got out of hand. And I think that there's going to be some questions that have to be asked, whether it's through congressional investigation or through other methods, to get to the bottom of how that escalation occurred and how those events were allowed to take place.
As you look at the facts of the election, were these objections something that should have taken place, or was this more people trying to improve their position of power? Some people maybe fundraising. Was it political, or was it the right way to go based on what you saw in the election?
Well, there's a lot of factors, and I think I saw a number of people say that the fact that there were objections or challenges to the votes was a coup, and I don't think that that's the case, because that's in the rules. If somebody has an objection, they're permitted to make it, and then the House and Senate as bodies decide whether or not that objection is legitimate. And so it's in the rules that date to 1877, and it's part of the U.S. Code. It's there. It's established as a legitimate thing. Now, whether or not some people used that legitimate process as a way to curry favor with certain constituencies, or did it to try to raise money or benefit themselves politically, I think that that's something your listeners can take a look at and see who was there and who was saying what and who was doing what, and make that assessment. I think that given that we have a perpetual campaign cycle in the United States where everybody's always looking to the next election. So I don't think it's unheard of to talk about or think about some folks trying to make some political maneuvers for down the road.
Do you think the debate would have or could have had some healing ability for the 75 million people who voted for Donald Trump if they watched the debate and learned through the debate that maybe it wasn't massive voter fraud, or there wasn't evidence of it?
The debate that would have taken place in the House and the Senate over the objections? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes.
Possibly. I think that. Frankly, I think we would have heard the same arguments that we've been hearing for 2 months on both sides, and I'm not sure that really would have advanced the ball down the field, if you will.
How important was it, or was it important at all for them, the elected officials, to get right back to it? It was unbelievable what happened. It was scary. No one would have blamed anyone for saying, look, let's let you all go home and we'll come back and start up again tomorrow or the next day. But they stayed and they worked through it. What is your take on that?
Yeah, I give them a ton of credit. I really do. I think that as you said, nobody would have blamed any one of those individuals had they said, all right, we need to regroup and come back in a day or two. But kudos to them and the leadership that was shown by many on both sides to get the House and Senate back to finish the work that they'd started. That's what they're there to do, right? They're there to represent us and follow through on their sworn duties, and that's what they did. So, like I said, I give them a ton of credit.
There's talk of potential impeachment, invoking the 25th Amendment. Is any of that realistic with 13 days to go?
That's a great question. I think that, we saw in just about a year ago that the House of Representatives can impeach the president whenever it wants, as long as it has 218 votes to do so. So I think that could certainly happen again. I think the big question is how many Republicans would vote for that, and then if it were to transpire and pass, what the Senate would do with that. I wonder about. I've read some things today about the cabinet using the 25th Amendment to remove the president. I wonder if those folks are too loyal to the president, or if they're concerned about who might follow them in the next 2 weeks. So I think that one's probably, in this political time, who knows what's next.
Yeah, well, hopefully it will be peaceful between now and inauguration. They're taking security actions to make sure that happens. What do you say just to Americans in general, people, no matter what side they voted for? Where do we go from here?
I think everybody needs to take a step back and think about where we are as a country and what we as individuals can do to try and make it better.
All right. I appreciate it. David Dulio, thanks for joining us, political science professor, Oakland University.
Thanks, guys.
All right. Let's take a quick break and check traffic with Michael Stetz.
This report is sponsored by the Exergen Temporal Scanner. Don't take chances with COVID-19 and your family's health. Use the Exergen Temporal Scanner to check temperatures before dinner and before you leave home. It takes an accurate reading in seconds and is the #1 thermometer recommended by hospitals, doctors, and nurses. Stay safe with Exergen.
In the city, some good news. That incident from earlier on 75 southbound at the Rouge River Bridge, that is now cleared. In Wayne County, more good news. That incident from earlier on 275 southbound after Michigan Avenue, that's now cleared. Your stop and go from Ford Road. Now WJR Weather first from the Weather Channel. Sponsored by Clarkston Window and Door. Over 31 years in business, over 450 combined years of experience installing windows. Trust the specialists at Clarkston Window and Door. Act now to take advantage of 31% off installed windows, doors, and garage doors. 248-338-6781 or clarkstonwindow.com. A low of 27 tonight. Partly cloudy for Friday with a high tomorrow of 32. Right now it's 35 degrees. I'm Michael Stetz, WJR News in 2 minutes.
Hi, I'm Charity Burke, Executive Director of the Oakland Mediation Center. Oakland Mediation Center is a volunteer-based nonprofit organization.
Short show tomorrow, guys.
Yeah. Let's just do it an extra hour tonight and not do anything tomorrow.
Right? Yeah. Do them all at once. Doesn't matter to me. I got to be here anyway. Oh.
Are you doing Guy tomorrow?
I am, yes. Anonymous is calling, so it's either our next guest or
I think it'll be our next guest.
The hacktivist group is back.
Or it's a conspiracy.
This is Stetz from the Truth Bunker.
Maybe I'll put up some camouflage and editing in the background. And
that'd be good.
I'll be like Woody Harrelson from 2012.
Oh, yeah, that one, yeah.
Terrible movie, but Woody Harrelson was hysterical.
Your next guest is ready to go, Kev.
All right, cool.
How come in every apocalypse movie they always destroy New York with computer generation?
I tell you, if you're in the mood for a good apocalypse disaster movie, Greenland with Gerard Butler just came out.
I like him.
Thoroughly entertaining.
What's that on?
I think it's on demand right now.
Oh, okay.
Like rental for whatever, either streaming or
the old-fashioned pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Never heard of that one.
Yeah, it's good. Marina Baccarin's in it too. She's gorgeous.
From Gotham, right?
I don't know if she was in Gotham. She was in Homeland in the beginning, first couple seasons, and she's in Deadpool. She's in a bunch of stuff.
Yeah. I think she's married to the guy who played Commissioner Gordon in Gotham.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, she was also in the TV. Was it V? Was she the TV version of?
Oh yeah, good call. The reboot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. She is gorgeous. You're right.
Dude, V was the best, man. I remember as a kid when that was on. That was like everything.
That was a great show.
Do you have a poster from that, Mike?
Yeah. Did
You know, I should have a poster because Mark Singer was in it, who was also in the Beastmaster. Which
Yeah,
I showed you my poster the other day.
Can we do the 6 degrees of separation of the Beastmaster and Mark Singer?
Mark Singer. I mean, I'm trying to think. Rip Torn was in.
Now that's a hell of a show. His name, by the way,
Rip Torn. He was in Beastmaster. Yep.
Right, and then Rip Torn was in. Oh yeah, Rip Torn was in Dodgeball with Ben Stiller.
That's right. Okay.
Who was in Meet the Fockers with De Niro, who was in Sleepers with Kevin Bacon. Boom.
There you
I have
are.
no way of checking that. I'm gonna just.
He's 100% right. I can verify everything that he said.
You've completely put our Facebook audience to sleep.
Who doesn't like 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Yeah, come on.
Oh man.
He just connected Mark Singer to Kevin Bacon. Come on.
Kevin, you don't remember V and V: The Final Battle, the Alien miniseries on NBC back in the day?
I can't do aliens. I can't do sci-fi.
I mean, there was Delta Burke, Robert Englund, Mark Singer, Michael Ironside.
I feel like for the past 30 years, Kevin has been too busy journalisming.
Reading.
He's really shaming us in his head. He's like,
I also tried to watch your Karate Kid remake too, and
Cobra Kai.
We got about 20 minutes in, and my wife made me turn it off.
She
said this is garbage.
Are you what? What?
The parking
Sacrilege.
lot. The parking lot fight scene off the bat.
I don't even know what you're
fighting words.
That's horrible.
Dave's one of those people who gets personally offended if you don't like something.
No, I'll watch it again on my own. I just said my wife made me turn it off. I would have stuck in there because you guys gave me 3 thumbs up.
Don't get us started on Point Break with Mike Parsons.
Yeah.
Well.
So I got they did a little flashback and then back. I didn't get very far into it, but I also didn't know if you guys were just punking me and just saying, "We'll make Dietz watch 3 seasons of this thing."
Right.
It's fantastic television. Come on.
That would be a good prank.
Oh yeah, you got to watch. You got to stay for all 3 seasons. It gets so good.
This great show called Jersey Shore, Kevin. It's amazing. You got to watch every episode.
What's your go-to show right now, Kevin?
What's that?
What's your go-to show right now, or in recent times?
We just finished Peaky Blinders, which I thought was great.
Okay, I've heard good things. I haven't checked it out yet.
Yeah, it was good. It was quite I think it was 6 seasons. There's a lot of content there. What else?
That's Cillian Murphy's in that, right?
Yeah.
That's after Kevin.
You have to watch that with the closed captioning though, because their Irish accents are tough, and you miss a lot.
That's after Kevin finished watching all the seasons of Columbo and Matlock. You know,
there's a show called La Casa de Papel. It's Money Heist. Is the American? It's a Spanish show.
I watched about 10 episodes of that. Maybe.
Okay, it's one of my favorite shows, and I banged the drum for that show.
It just didn't match. It didn't match. The lips didn't match the sound. It was off.
Well, you have. I watch it in Spanish with the subtitles. I feel like it's a bad kung fu movie if you watch it with dubbing.
All right.
But it's such a brilliant show. The
cool.
cinematography is insane. And it's one of the biggest shows on Netflix, period, around the globe.
Yeah, it was cool.
The House of Papel. That's not paper, is it?
Yeah, Paper House. La Casa de Papel.
It's no Cobra Kai. I know that. Come on.
You would like that show, Dave. You were watching his new show, White Lines.
Yes, I loved White Lines.
That's the same creator as Money Heist.
White Lines was great.
Yeah.
White Lines was very good. Yes.
The Narcos series on Netflix were tremendous.
Yeah, Narcos was good. Yeah. Kev, you didn't see any of these things, did you?
I saw Narcos. I saw like 4 or 5 Narcos. So the thing is, like when my son moved out a couple of years ago when he graduated and got a real job. So I have my wife and 2 daughters. So I'm watching more of.
All right, violence and action is taking a back seat.
Right.
You got to compromise. You got to compromise there.
So you see Love is Blind then.
Yeah, exactly. I've seen the ballet contest shows.
The Great American Bake Off.
It's great. A lot of rom-com.
Listen, these skirts and the baking shows.
All the baking shows and the ones where they do clothes. Clothing design, baking shows.
I like the holiday baking shows on the Food Network with Jesse Palmer. Those were fun.
all of Hallmark's movies. I've seen.
100 USA Foam or USAinsulation.net.
USA Insulation. From the heart of the Motor City, it's the Mitch Albom Show with Mitch Albom and Ken Brown. Sitting in for Mitch, Kevin Dietz.
Thank you. Clearly, there was a massive security failure. What took place at the Capitol and the nation's capital should have never happened, and it cannot ever happen again. Joining us now is security expert James Tolbert, former Flint chief of police. James, welcome to the Mitch Albom Show.
Thank you, Kevin.
Watching this thing, do you have any ideas how this was able to happen, watching it from television without having access to all the information?
Yeah, obviously without having access to the information, but I think what we have here is obviously either a failure to obtain or the ignoring of intelligence. Which anytime you have a large scale operation where you're going to have a protest, there's so many different social intelligence, human intelligence that you have to consult, and internet intelligence, and the ball was just missed.
The security, I was watching this thing and I was wondering about the numbers. It seemed like there was just way more people, protesters, than there were police. And as they gained entrance into the Capitol building, obviously there's an emergency situation that's going on. There's also thousands of people outside, and police on the inside have to protect people on the inside, and police on the outside have to try and thin that crowd out. You can't just jump in and start clearing the crowd, right? Do you have to have some sort of plan, some sort of emergency plan for that situation?
Yeah, absolutely. I think what you have to have a perimeter. You have to have a safe zone, and when you don't have that safe zone, it's very chaotic. And the worst thing that can happen is that you try to establish the safe zone or safe perimeter after there's been a breach, because there's so many other things that go in after the breach. For instance, once they enter the Capitol, any place they've been in the Capitol now it can't be considered a safe zone, because there could be explosives that could have been hidden, and you can also. So that's just the immediate threats. There are some long-term effects or threats that I'm sure is being addressed simply because individuals were able to access areas where normally there would be some higher amounts of security. We talk about someone going into an office and where computers are, where malware and spyware can be easily inserting a thumb drive. That's a whole additional concern that I'm sure that's being looked at now. But once that perimeter is breached, and it's just so hard to try, you have to apply so many resources to try to take that back. And that's why it's important to have the plan in place ahead of time to ensure that your perimeter isn't breached and you always have that safe zone.
This was the kind of thing, it seems, they knew was happening. They knew thousands, tens of thousands of people were coming. They could have surmised that they would come to the Capitol after the rally. Is this something where someone in the plans said, well, we don't have the budget for it, or this is too much of a hassle to get other agencies to join us here? Is that where the failure was, or do you think someone actually just missed it?
It's hard to believe someone missed it. However, without having any additional information, but from what I have been looking at and what I have been hearing on different forums, online forums through the police, it absolutely seems as though it's just so. At some point, we know there's been other situations of protest on the Capitol where they were more than prepared. So I don't know if this is someone not taking it seriously, or someone who just decided that they weren't going to have the personnel in place to address it if this weren't. Because anytime you have a large-scale protest, you have to plan for the worst.
So now there's going to be there's going to be a new 7-foot non-scalable fence erected around the entire Capitol for the next 30 days. First of all, will that work? And second of all, are you surprised that there wasn't something in place to stop people from scaling the walls of the Capitol building already?
Well, I think again you have to look at the threat, and will the fence work? Well, what the fence is non-scalable. What it is, it's a fencing that's 7 feet high that actually it doesn't allow a person to have the footholds that you would have on a normal fence. So that's what this non-scalable fence is. So it's non-scalable it's not easy to climb over, but 7 feet. Can it be breached? Yeah, absolutely. But it's not as easily breached as a normal fence.
You watch the video of the breach, and people are taking scaffolding and putting it up against the wall, then they're scaling up to the next level, and they're busting windows, and they're able to get in. Wouldn't you think after 9/11 these issues would have been dealt with, that there would have been more security measures that would never allow something like this to happen? It was amazing how easily they were able to get in.
Yeah, again, when I talk before about having that safe zone and establishing that perimeter, within that perimeter, you don't want to have scaffolding where somebody can climb and defeat your perimeter. So what you do is you either remove that scaffolding or you put your safe zone out far enough and your defensive layer, your first defensive layer, where that scaffolding doesn't turn into one of your worst nightmares. And you don't want to have bricks in your outside your safe zone, so processors can pick up bricks and throw them at your officers. So I mean, that's all part of determining what your perimeter does and how your perimeter can work for you and assist you in protecting the Capitol.
In the one chamber, they were able to get inside in that chamber. In the other, you could see officers, with guns drawn, trying to keep people from getting in. What about just the makeup of those chambers? Should it be more difficult to bust in through windows and gain access like that?
Absolutely. They do continual security assessments, and it's set up. I mean, the fact that they got in there like that easy is just unbelievable. And you have to figure the officers that were inside the chamber when everything was going on. You noticed in a couple of photos they put furniture up against the doors so people couldn't get in. There's going to be a serious look at how those doors can have electronic magnets on it, unbreakable glass going forward. The magnets can lock those. They have very strong magnets, electronic panic magnets, so those doors will lock and they will not open. But this has never happened before. So, and I'm sure they no one ever expected this and planned for this. But believe me, all the systems will be looked at, and the way they deal with this will be reevaluated. And I'm sure there'll be some new requirements.
Yeah, 6,200 National Guard members are headed to D.C. To stay between now and the inauguration. It certainly seems like they should have been there before the rally and vote yesterday. James Tolbert, we appreciate you taking some time to come on the Mitch Albom Show.
Thanks, Kevin. Take care.
You too. Happy New Year. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be back with more after we check traffic and weather with Michael Stett.
Thank you, Kevin. In Wayne County, I lost my screen for a second there. In the city, road construction has the right lane closed right now on 75 southbound between Werner Highway and Springwell Street. That's scheduled through January 29th. And in Oakland County, road construction on the 75 northbound service drive between 696 and Lincoln Avenue. That single lane closure is scheduled through early March. Now, Wjr Weather first from the Weather Channel.
High 35 degrees with those north winds. Low tonight 27. Northeast winds Friday, partly cloudy, high 32. And partly cloudy Saturday, near 40. I'm meteorologist Scott Laurie. More on News Talk 760 WJR.
Circle sponsor for the day. Did you know that
your next guest ready to go, Kev?
Oh, great about that. My screen dropped out. I mean, the perils of working from home.
That's okay. You only have to be good on the brakes.
Right.
You,
Everything else is just filler.
You covered it well, Stats.
I was like, as soon as I started, there was like, I'm like, okay. Total Traffic always has little landmines you gotta deal with.
Here on the Mitch Albom Show with special guest host Kevin Dietz, we live for the commercial breaks.
That's right. Some of
the kibitz.
Absolutely.
Caution! You're entering the kibitz.
You are now.
That's where some of the best information is delivered.
Absolutely.
And an occasional conspiracy.
Stets's truth bunker.
I haven't heard the dogs barking today. Are they quarantined or what's going on?
Let me tell you something. These dogs have been driving me crazy for like the last 4 days. I don't know what it is. Change of weather. Lola has been running around like a banshee. She hasn't barked and interrupted today, but she crowds Maui's space all the time because she loves Maui. She's her big sister. So those two have their own dynamic they're kind of working out.
I couldn't work from home because if my dog knows we're home and like we're in a different room and she's not there, she will howl like she's being tortured.
Yeah, it works that Lauren's here too.
Right.
So like she's out there with Lauren in the living room. Maui's usually pretty chill. She might want to come in here, so if Lauren's not here, then I open the door to the office.
Right.
And then they can kind of hang out in here if they want. So
I like when you brought him in the other day.
Yeah, it depends on the day. Sometimes I'll let them in here. Sometimes they'll come and knock on the door. It's
the entire community. For more safety tips, visit oakgov.com/COVID, paid for by Oakland County Health Division.
You're listening to the Mitch Albom Show on the great voice of the Great Lakes, 760 WJR. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
Joining us now is Debbie Dingell, U.S. Representative for the 12th Congressional District. Thanks for being back on the show.
It is always good to be with you. How are you tonight?
I'm doing better today than yesterday. It was really difficult and tough to see and tough to talk about what we were seeing yesterday.
Yeah, it was a tough day, and I have yet to go to bed, so I'm really tired. But, all of us have to really do some reflective thinking. I hope that it was a wake-up call for all of us about how we can't take our democracy for granted and how we all got to work together. And I really do feel very strongly that this country is being divided by fear and hatred. We've been pitted against each other, and we got to do something about it.
I thought it was a good sign. It was a good visual, a good message that you all stayed into the early hours of the morning to finish your job. It wasn't required. People can have trauma after a situation like you guys all went through. No one would have been upset if they took a 24 or 48-hour recess. I know the work had to be done within 5 days, I think. But you guys stayed. Was it difficult to stay? Is it what everyone wanted to do?
I think that it was something that everybody recognized needed to happen. It really was an act of domestic terrorism yesterday. And terrorists win when they terrorize. And we couldn't let them win yesterday. So I was someone that felt very strongly we needed to go back last night. But when the decision was made that they could, one of the things that had to happen was that they needed to make the Capitol building safe. And they had to go through room by room and make sure that not only were there no protesters or people that wanted to do violence left, but there were a number of bombs that were found at different sites. So they had to ensure that the building was safe for us to go back and then find a way to safely get back to the Capitol. But when they announced that they were going to be able to do that, everybody stood up and applauded, Republicans and Democrats and people on both sides. We had a job to do, and we needed to finish our job and not let the kind of thing that happened yesterday disrupt it.
Are you concerned at all? I know it's only been 28 hours. It's still early, but we haven't heard any information really about the woman who was killed and why she was killed. We haven't heard why there weren't more police at the scene, knowing that there was that many protesters in town, knowing that they were upset? We're not really getting a lot of really good information, just promises of investigations.
Well, I don't know if you've heard, Nancy Pelosi this afternoon announced that she had requested the Capitol Police Chief's resignation, and the Sergeant of Arms for the House did resign, and Chuck Schumer was very clear that the Sergeant of Arms for the Senate side, if he didn't resign, would be fired. So all of the top management has been held accountable and will be replaced. But you still want to understand what happened. I am somebody who, I've been asking a lot of questions. There are going to be investigations. The various committees are already announcing that both the Homeland Security and the Appropriations Administrative Committee, who funds the Capitol Police, have already announced their investigations. But, I've been talking to a lot of people, and for instance, even, it took some time to get and how it happened to you, and I talked a little about this yesterday, that it was Vice President Pence that actually got the National Guard at the D.C. level and got the Defense Department to approve it. But Governor Hogan, who is a Republican governor in Maryland, talked more about what happened yesterday, and that Steny Hoyer had placed an urgent call to him for help from the National Guard in Maryland. And the governor wanted to help. He had people ready to go, but the head of his National Guard in the state said it is not authorized. And they were, the Speaker and Steny and Schumer were all in the same room and were being told that it had been. And the governor said today that his commander said, no, it's not. And then about an hour later, the normal chain of command did not call and authorize it, but that the Secretary of Army called and said, could you please get help there as soon as possible? And the governor said, I've been wanting to do this for an hour and a half, with the clear implication that the Pentagon and those that needed to authorize it for the Capitol were not there. Now, I don't understand why they didn't have stronger plans. I mean, anybody, if you come from Michigan like we do know what some of the strong Trump supporters can do. We understand the Michigan militia. I've had the men outside my house with the assault weapons. So I know the real terror of what can happen, and now we're all, I certainly had heard about it for weeks, the online traffic, what they were threatening to do. So there clearly were some serious disconnects. Why the decision was made and who made it, and was it authorized or not, to have the National Guard, if they didn't want a visible military presence, they should have been at the ready at some place very close, so that what happened, when it happened, they could have been there. I have actually signed the letter for the GAO investigation that's going to look at how all of the agencies coordinated, why was the work not done, etc. But at the same time, I also want to tell you there were men and women last night that worked very hard to keep us safe. I saw a couple of the injured policemen. And again, we need a clear explanation. It shouldn't have happened. They managed to mock the symbol, the ultimate symbol of our democracy. And yet there were heroes, and we need to remember that. Life is always complicated.
So the GAO investigation would find out if there were communication errors or if these were intentional decisions that were made not to do things before, not to do things at the time. And now, of course, what's happening after. Are you happy with what's happening right now? There's going to be some 7-foot unscalable fencing around the Capitol building. 6,200 National Guard are coming in. It's hard to believe they're not there already. It's hard to believe they weren't there Monday morning.
That is correct. I mean, some of the questions that are being asked are the scale and the adequacy of security preparations that you and I have talked about, including the Capitol Police, the FBI, Department of Defense, Homeland Security, Secret Service. How did the federal and local entities coordinate for security and emergency support? What was the impact of rhetoric by government and elected officials that contributed to what happened, the effectiveness of the federal response in coordination with local authorities. There are a number of things. And one of the issues that's come up again, Kevin, is that, in our state, when we need National Guard, the governor, but it's not only in our state, it's in any state. It's why the governor can call it up. But in the District of Columbia, the mayor is not authorized to call up the National Guard. So should we be authorizing her to have that authority, which, some are opposed to, because then it would make her the equivalent of a governor. So this is going to be a really complicated issue. So we've got to right now make sure we're safe. We've got to clean up what happened yesterday and make sure something like this can never, ever, ever happen again.
And part of staying safe, though, in the next 13 days is having people dial it down. And I'm not sure that happened today. I'm sure you saw Donald Trump's tweet today. Joe Biden, President-elect Joe Biden was on TV today. Nancy Pelosi was on TV. There was a lot of tough talk today. I didn't sense a lot of dialing it down by anybody.
So I have some strong feelings about all of this, which I have expressed at the appropriate places. I do want to say that I am concerned about the potential damage that he could do for the next 13 days. And there are people that are in his immediate sphere who are concerned about some of the things that he has been doing. But I think that the people, the Amendment 25, allows for the cabinet and the vice president to look at whether someone has those issues. I do not want to do anything that will contribute further to inflaming the violence or the rhetoric that is happening, though I do think that the president directly impacted much of what happened on the Hill yesterday, and I think it's very complicated because people do believe that he needs to be held accountable. I think an impeachment is very hard in 13 days. I think we could end up doing something like that, but I do think we need to be aware that there were millions of people that voted for Donald Trump. Joe Biden got more, and we need to understand why. I think that there are some people that believe in violence, and we've met them and we've seen them, but we also need to understand how they feel and work with them and try to bring us together.
Well, it's going to be very tricky to hold someone accountable and not inflame further violence. It's going to be very difficult for you. I'm glad you're there. Thanks for checking in, and please continue to as these troubling and tough weeks come across. Thanks.
I will. Thank you. Take care.
We're going to take a quick break and check traffic with Michael Stetz.
This report is sponsored by the Exergen Temporal Scanner. Don't take chances with COVID-19 and your family's health. Use the Exergen Temporal Scanner to check temperatures before dinner and before you leave home. It takes an accurate reading in seconds and is the #1 thermometer recommended by hospitals, doctors, and nurses. Stay safe with Exergen.
In the city, the on-ramp closed right now on 75 southbound at Werner Highway due to construction. That construction scheduled through January 29th. In Bloomfield Township, an accident on Telegraph northbound at Lone Pine Road. That has you stop and go from Corton Road. And in Livingston County, an accident on 23 northbound after 96. Now WJR weather first. From the Weather Channel, a low of 27 tonight, partly cloudy for Friday, with a high tomorrow of 32. Right now it's 35 degrees. I'm Michael Stetz, WJR News in 2 minutes.
Does this sound familiar? You don't want to get out of bed in the morning because your house is so cold, your upstairs is cold.
Sweatshirts and blankets.
Mike, do you get nervous when I leave you up on the screen by yourself after your traffic report?
No, I'm just, I always see like, oh, look, there's me. I hope other people that are coming, people are going to be like, who is this guy? Everybody, that's taking over the Kibitz solo a little bit. We'll have Parsons and Mr. Dietz and Wjr back in a second, but let's get into this time.
Just stretch.
Entertain the people for the next 6 minutes. Go.
Hey, well, good to have everybody aboard, and thanks for coming into the Kibitz this afternoon. We got a lot going on today, news in the nation's capital, plus some Lions GM talk. Your call's next.
Oh, very good.
Nice.
I am a professional, you know.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I don't know what other things people are even talking about. So I've been pretty deep into this.
I think this honestly, I think this is really the only story today. I mean, yesterday there's some COVID news. What's that?
I would have to throw, like, if it was like a newscast, I'd have to say, like, more news from the nation's capital and little Lions GM talk, and then lastly, a lady with a Christmas tree farm and a special story she wants to share.
Here's a story out of France. Thieves made off with $675,000 in wine and threw bottles at the police as they were trying to get away.
Oh, wow. I mean, it sounds effective, but it also seems like it defeats the purpose.
What about Samsung's announcement of their new 146-inch wall television set?
Ooh.
How about that? Coming to a store near you.
We upgraded to a 65-inch, and for the first month we had that TV, I didn't know where to look because my eyes couldn't take in the whole screen.
Imagine over doubling that to 146 inches. It's called the Wall. It's a TV that Samsung just came out with.
It takes some training to watch a screen that big.
It only takes a couple of days though, and then you need it.
Yeah, right.
A 46 to a 55, and it took me a couple of days to get my
I would have
legs.
I would have to rewind. So I'm like, okay, what? I watched the left half of the screen. Now what's happening on the right half of the screen?
That's good. Do any of you guys have a room with 2 or 3 monitors where you watch multiple games?
That's the dream, but no.
Yeah.
Yes, that is a solid solid setup, especially when you have you can have different boxes for Sunday tickets. You can have different games going at the same time.
I'll tell you what I do miss is going to a bar and having multiple games on and having some appetizers and a burger and a beer. Man, I want that. I want that so bad. Can we please get back to that again?
I miss it. And some food doesn't carry out as well. I mean, there's some food that's only good at the restaurant, but by the time you get it home, it's ruined.
Yeah, we did that for a couple of weeks, somewhere in between when it was closed and then open and then closed again, somewhere in there. And it was unbelievable. But within about an hour of the game starting, all of a sudden, all the social distancing ended. Everybody was all everywhere. We're like, we got to get out of here. I mean, it just, once everybody started having some beers and having a good time, they forgot, all about this,
Right. They lose their inhibitions and they think the alcohol will kill the virus.
It doesn't?
My wife actually got her first vaccine today. So yeah, she works at a doctor's office.
Nice.
I know someone who finally got the second one. I was going to actually see if they wanted to come on the show, but
yeah, because I hear that's the one that has the bad
that's what they
side
say.
effect.
Yeah, I haven't heard yet. I got to reach out and find out.
What are the 3 majors? Moderna,
Pfizer,
and AstraZeneca, is it?
AstraZeneca, I think.
Which one did Chelsea get, Mike?
I'll have to ask her today.
My mom just got an email that starting on Monday,
happy birthday, Mom.
Oh yes, happy belated birthday, Mom.
Happy birthday, Freya.
And happy belated birthday to your sister, Kevin.
Yes.
Happy birthday, Sister Dietz.
Starting Monday, the Michigan, the Oakland County Health Department is starting to when they get the vaccines and make appointments for people 65 and up, whether they're normal or.
When's your appointment?
No, not there yet.
Boom.
Not there yet. Not there yet. And you're not that far behind me, old man. Okay.
That's true. I'm wheeling in here.
Yeah, we know that. Oh my hips after going to the driving range. Oh, my hips are a little tight. I can't get through a whole bucket of balls.
I have osteoarthritis in my hips and my back.
You two spend too much time together. I
can't believe you shame me like that. A man with my condition.
Once you start busting someone's chops on their medical history, you know too much about each other.
Yeah.
All right, back in a minute here.
Oh, we got a minute. All right.
See, Dave was so wrapped up in making fun of your hips, Mike. We almost missed our next guest.
That you mentioned the wine story, Kevin. I love when I read a story about some restaurant where a server mistaken like a $40 bottle of wine with like $1,000 bottle of wine.
Oh, right.
Imagine being those people. They're not going to take it away from you.
No. That's once you get it, it's yours.
Yep.
I wouldn't know that. I wouldn't know the difference. You could. I wouldn't know.
Me either. I don't have a very sophisticated palate.
I do love a good glass of wine.
That's physical distancing. Shop.
It's good for antioxidants.
This is true too.
Here we go. 10 seconds here.
More safety tips, visit oakgov.com/COVID. Paid for by Oakland County Health Division.
You're listening to the Mitch Albom Show on the great voice of the Great Lakes, 760 WJR. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
We watched the images of rioters making their way through the hallways of the Capitol after breaking windows and forcing their way past security. What happens to them now? How do we identify them, and what will they be charged with? Joining us now is Keith Corbett, former federal prosecutor. Keith, how are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you, Kevin. I'm doing fine.
The images are, sad and scary, and in some cases, maybe people just were having fun. I don't know, but it's all probably going to get very, very serious now as the FBI has put up a tip line and a website. People are calling in the names of those they've seen on television. Social media sites have been captured, and people are being identified. People who were bold enough to go into Nancy Pelosi's office and take selfies. What do you see happening now as an investigation into who did what and who should be charged with what?
Well, obviously, each individual person has to be evaluated in his or her own case and the determination made as to what should be done. And I think we run the gamut from simple trespass all the way up to conceivably domestic terrorism, depending on what the circumstances are. So obviously videos will be gathered, cell phones and whatever the Capitol Police had, interviews, witness interviews, people have gone on the web, they'll look at that. All those things will be the mechanisms they utilize to identify people and then have to identify the conduct.
Do you think with the large numbers of people, they say, all right, we're going to charge people who went into the building, but not people outside? Technically, all of those people we saw on television outside were trespassing. They had gone well beyond the security barriers.
Right, and the trespass is a misdemeanor that is not really a particularly serious offense. So that I don't think they're going to wind up charging a couple of hundred or 1,000 people with trespass. If they identify people that appear to be the leaders or the instigators of the effort, I think they might pursue them. But again, they could. I just don't know. I think it would be this has all got to be handled by the federal courts in the city of Washington, or in the District of Columbia rather, and that's going to jam up the process for a long time if you wind up with thousands of defendants.
So as they identify people and have an opportunity to figure out what exactly they did or what role they were playing, do they start to say, okay, we have some very serious charges we could bring against you? I mean, the new law that President Trump passed about destroying monuments, I think could be part of this. That was a 10-year maximum prison penalty.
Right, and even aside from that, there's a physical damage to government property, which is misdemeanor. But if you go above a certain dollar amount, it becomes a felony. And to show that the dollar amount was probably set 30 years ago or more, it's $1,000. I mean, I honestly believe you could break 4 or 5 windows in today's economy and find yourself looking at $1,000, which makes that a felony. Obviously, people who broke into Nancy Pelosi's office and did any damage in there are looking at potential felonies for that. Anybody who was armed with a weapon when they went on federal property, whether they used it, displayed it or not, if they had a firearm on federal property, that's a felony. And then obviously, for some people, you might get the government considering bringing a charge of domestic terrorism, which is generally defined as the unlawful use of force or violence to motivate or coerce the government in furtherance of a potential a political or a social objective. So I think you can clearly make a case that some of those people were attempting to impact on the government's decision regarding the election, and that they may be guilty of domestic terrorism. Also, we can't forget the assault on the federal offices. So the security police are, in fact, federal officers in the buildings, and those people could be charged with assault on a federal officer. And then you have whether or not they threatened any individual members of Congress. So there are a wide variety of both misdemeanor and federal charges that could be brought. And if it's a close case, it's not uncommon to charge the felony and let the person plead to a misdemeanor if it's relatively minor conduct. So if they did $1,500 worth of damage to windows or a set of windows, you might let them plead to the misdemeanor.
I feel like there might be two groups of people who were there to protest and got caught up in all of this and went with the crowd, and then people who maybe conspired to go there and see how much trouble they could cause. Okay, we saw people with tear gas. And what do you do with those folks?
Those people, I think, are the people that may be looking at a charge of domestic terrorism, which would probably be the most serious charge you could bring against these people. I know there's been discussions of sedition, but if I were in charge of making the decision, if I thought I had enough to bring a sedition case, I would bring in a domestic terrorism case, because I think it would be easier to prove and you wouldn't get into some serious political discussions of what actually constitutes sedition as opposed to what constitutes domestic terrorism, which, as I said, is the use of force or violence to threaten somebody for a political purpose. I think it's pretty clear if you planned to go there, if you had guns. Obviously, I mean, there were some people, they weren't actually in the Capitol, but there are reports of pipe bombs being located at both the DNC and the RNC. So there's some people who were participating in these events with a clear goal, and whether or not they leave a footprint on social media and whether or not they're going to have people who will come in and testify about what they had said they were going to do before the incident is going to be dispositive, I think, of whether or not the government can charge domestic terrorism. But you're right. I think some people, went for the demonstration. They saw everybody going in, and they went into the Capitol as well. And those are the kinds of people who I think they may be looking at charges such as trespass or entering a restricted government building, those kinds of things.
Although federal prosecutors probably won't like the idea of I just followed the crowd or I didn't realize it was a crime to go in there. Keith Corbett, thanks so much for. Go ahead.
No, I'm just talking about how you evaluate the seriousness of the charge. And you have a good evening.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks so much. We appreciate you coming on the Mitch Albom Show. We're going to take a quick break and check traffic with Michael Stetz.
This report is sponsored by Unbound.org. Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice: continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at Unbound.org.
In Bloomfield Township, an accident on Telegraph northbound at Lone Pine Road. Expect delays there. And in Livingston County, an accident on 23 northbound after 96. Expect delays there as well. Now WJR Weather first from the Weather Channel.
35 our high today with a snowflake or two. Low tonight 27. Friday partly cloudy 32. Saturday partly cloudy 40. I'm meteorologist Scott Laurie, and more on News Talk 760 WJR.
I vaccinate because I want to protect my daughter.
So I just got an alert that Capitol Police Chief Steve's son has resigned.
Yeah, that's Dingle told us that.
Oh, did she?
Yeah.
I must have been doing something.
We broke that news 11 minutes ago.
Well, I'm on an 11-minute delay, so.
Yeah, that you have to, right? I mean, I don't know. It looked like they were letting people in on some of the videos. I mean,
yeah, Stats sent me one, and even though I don't know what was going on in the video, and I don't know what the explanation was, it's what it looked like.
I know every time I'm in town, I try and get in. There's like 30 minutes of going through security. I don't know.
Well, you just have to show up with 50,000 of your closest friends. Get right in. Oh, wow. We got the calls. people want to talk to you.
Should we take calls or should we just kibitz amongst ourselves?
It's up to you. We can kibitz in calls or, ride the momentum. Do what feels right.
How many calls do we have?
We got 3.
All right. Let me have them. Let's see what we have. We'll try it. I'm not going to be. You be ready to pull the plug and let's talk sports.
Okay. Let's see. Maybe not that one first, Dave. We'll get you.
You guys probably know all of them already.
We'll get you a thoughtful, erudite one. If not, then you can just ask Stets about the Lions.
Exactly. He left.
Yeah, he's had enough of us. Did you just change your shirt, Stets?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is my Super Fiends. It's all the villains from the Super Film.
Oh yeah, I'm seeing Skeletor. I'm seeing Shredder.
Cobra Commander, Skeletor.
Yeah, I saw Skeletor.
Nomura. They're all there.
I got 3 out of 5.
I had meat on the stove. It's taco night at the Stets household.
Oh, nice.
Multitasking.
So I try to time it.
Right.
Get it going, and then 7 o'clock, we're off and running for dinner.
Wow. Chow down.
Yeah, master of jack of all trades, master of none.
That's right. Master of your own domain.
That's right. Where did Rieger go? Disappear?
We screened a couple phone calls, so
we're gonna give it a try. But if it doesn't go well, we're coming back, Stets. So don't disappear.
Well, I'll be here.
Yeah. Put a lid on the tacos.
I have about this much tolerance for
Lauren just got just ordered a air fryer that came to the house today.
Oh, I want to try that.
So,
although I hate having more stuff on the counter, it's like there's a coffee pot, there's the air fryer. And
we had to work out the logistics. So
yeah,
but
I like the George Foreman.
Yeah, Foremans are great. We have a Foreman too. My prized possession is my Traeger smoker. That is
But that you bring it out when you use it, right? That's
Tracy Traeger. I nicknamed her.
Here we come. All right. Hey, good luck. May the odds be in your favor.
Right.
That's 833-600-GOLD.
You're listening to the Mitch Albom Show on the great voice of the Great Lakes, 760 WJR. Here's special guest host Kevin Dietz.
Well, we've been hearing from a lot of people today, the last couple of hours, the last couple of days. We want to hear from you as well. The phone number, if you'd like to join us, is 877-44-MITCH, 877-44-MITCH. Let's check in with Ken in Ypsilanti. Ken, welcome to the Mitch Albom Show.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I think what needs to happen in D.C. is the mayor of D.C. should be given the authority of a governor to call in the National Guard, to do whatever is necessary. I think the orchestrators of this event knew the gray areas that existed with D.C. and the mayor and the Capitol Police and all the agencies involved. When I talked to a lot of people, we played D.C. School Howard here at Eastern a few years ago, and I talked to folks because they were amazed that our teachers could go on strike. But their teachers couldn't go on strike because of the situation that they're part of D.C. and not an individual state. So I think there's a lot of gray areas, and I feel for my representatives who have to go into this chaos and risk their lives to do their civic duty. And I just think that more needs to be done. Just relieving people is not a preventive measure. These folks that did this, they're dedicated, they know the system, they have these constitutional lawyers and everybody that reads the Constitution from cover to cover, and they know how they can manipulate the system.
D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser talked a little bit about that today, and it is a little frustrating when you're trying to figure out who is supposed to be in control of the situation. Is it the feds? Is it the state? Is it the mayor? It's a problem that should been resolved long before something like this happens. And I think you're right. I think it's important to set those boundaries so people know who's in charge and how to get an immediate response when needed. After 9/11, we should have learned that. All right, Ken, thanks for calling. We appreciate it. Let's check in with James in Tecumseh.
How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Let me first say I'm a U.S. Marine, and I don't condone what happened. I don't condone what BL Men's done, and I will blast these people for doing what they did, and they all should be punished. But people are not listening to the American people. What we are upset about is that why we feel the election was stolen. The same thing happened again down in Georgia. You look at the last two elections, the president one and the one in Georgia. There's one Democratic county, always one Democratic county that withhold their votes, and then miraculously when they bring their votes in, yes, we know it's a Democratic county, but miraculously they get the votes that they need. We're tired of seeing that. I'm not saying that there's fraud going on, but it looks funny. And that's what we want looked in, and nobody is looking into why one Democratic county is withholding their votes.
Do you think that we will see audits? I mean, when you have 75 million people who voted, and many feel that like this election had its share of problems, it seems like it would, for the good of everybody, an audit that showed how severe problems are or aren't would be helpful. We hear a lot about how this was the most accurate election in history. And then we hear from others that there's massive problems all over the place. It seems like an audit, a thorough audit. I'd like to see an audit in all 50 states so that we can know once and for all, where we're at in the accuracy of our elections.
So, but I don't condone with what happened, but that's why a lot of my friends are completely upset, because nobody's listening to our voices of why we are upset. It's not that we do feel like it was stolen, but the real reason is because we see that it's the same thing over and over again, and it's always one county. And then miraculously, they get 120,000 votes yesterday in Georgia.
Well, we heard a lot of Republicans and Democrats say that the evidence just isn't there of widespread fraud, and that the courts have rejected the allegations that are there. That's where we're at. That doesn't mean we can't have more audits. We know Joe Biden's going to be the president. He's going to be sworn in 13 days. But that doesn't mean we can't have more audits. We want the American public to feel that the elections are fair and honest. And I would support having more audits and taking a deep dive into where we're at. I appreciate the call, James. Thanks for calling. The number is 877-44-MITCH, 877-44-MITCH. Why don't you guys jump back in? Mike Parsons, Dave Rieger, and Michael Stetz. I wanted it's been a heavy day. I wanted to just lighten it up a little bit. Maybe talk a little sports. Stetz, you were keeping us up on the Lions coach search, the GM search. We also have some Hall of Fame news out of the Lions, right?
Yeah, Calvin Johnson will be one of the finalists for the next class of the Hall of Fame. Megatron certainly had a hell of a run in his time. Retired early, but he put up incredible numbers over those 10 years. So
that's a first time through for him.
Yeah. So usually they narrow down the finalists to a certain amount, then they whittle it down again, and then depending on how many they do, they
normally get in, Mike. A
Say
year.
that again?
How many people normally get into the Hall of Fame a year?
It's different every year. They changed things last season. They had a special case because it was the 100th anniversary. So they had some older players that haven't gotten in. There's no set amount. I guess it just depends on how many they decide, and they have all the voters, and they go through hours of debating. And
because baseball, you have to have a certain percentage of the vote. Is that the same thing with the NFL?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
trying to find the list of the
You
final.
know, I mean, we know two people that are going to go in automatically. There's
Peyton
no
Manning.
question. We know Peyton Manning's going in. We know that Charles Woodson is going in. At least from this class.
Yeah, NFL is not as difficult to get in, I should say, as the Baseball Hall of Fame. The Baseball Hall of Fame can be a little, only the Mario Rivera is the first player to be unanimously voted in.
Ask Barry Bonds.
Pete Rose, yeah. Yeah, don't get me started on the Baseball Hall of Fame.
And the Lions finished their interview with head coach candidate Robert Saleh, the defensive coordinator from the 49ers today.
Local guy.
And so, what is there? Has there been a lot of talk about how quickly they're going to move or not? I'd heard
No talk yet. They're doing due diligence. I mean, they've interviewed a ton of candidates for both the GM and head coach so far. More GM interviews than head coach interviews, but they have been super busy. I mean, recently they talked to Gary Payton, the assistant general manager of the Vikings. They talked to Terry Fontenot, who's in the front office with the Saints, and Brad Holmes, who's in the front office with the Los Angeles Rams. So they're getting after it. We'll see what happens with them.
And have we heard any more from Matthew Stafford, or is he staying where he's at? Just sit back for a minute.
The only thing about him was the video of him about that crazy controversial call last week with Tracy Walker. There was NFL Films video of him complaining on the sideline. So, it was pretty cool to see that, see his emotion. He was like, "What are we doing here? It was a tackle. What is this?" That's been making the rounds.
All right. We're still thinking about everybody out in Washington, D.C., and we appreciate everybody tuning in today and those who called in. We will be back tomorrow. Right now, we'll take a break and check traffic and weather with Michael Stetz.
This report is sponsored by Fresh Time Farmers Market. Get ready for a real healthy, real affordable, and much better year at your local Fresh Time Market. This week, shop their 25% off all vitamin supplements and body care sale now through January 12th. Get ready for better at Fresh Time Market. Real healthy foods, real affordable prices.
In the city, the on-ramp closed right now on 75 southbound at Werner Highway due to construction. That's scheduled through January 29th. In Bloomfield Township, some good news. That incident from earlier on the Telegraph northbound at Lone Pine Road, that is now cleared. And in Livingston County, an accident on 23 northbound after 96. Expect delays in that area. Now, WJR weather first. From the Weather Channel, a low of 27 tonight, partly cloudy for Friday with a high tomorrow of 32. Right now it's 35 degrees. I'm Michael Stetz, WJR News in 3 minutes.
I vaccinate because I want to protect my daughter.
I vaccinate because these diseases can be deadly.
Because of vaccinations, diseases like whooping cough.
Fellas.
Hey.
Sorry about that. Someone was playing my laptop, but I couldn't figure out where it was coming from. So,
Stetz, did you know those rules about the Hall of Fame? We were just throwing stuff at you, like stump the expert.
Yeah, I don't know them inside and out, but I know there's no set number. I know that. Sometimes there's more than others that get in. It kind of varies.
Stump the Stetz. That's
it varies every year. Sometimes Dave knows. Sometimes there's like 6 guys. Sometimes there's 8.
Yeah. I just know that. I just knew that 2 people that were going to get in for sure.
Is it rare to get in
5
on your
seasons
first time?
after you retire, Kevin. 5 seasons after you retire, you're eligible.
Okay.
What's that, Kevin? What did you say?
I said, do most people get in right away or no?
Oh, there's a lot of people that have to wait. There's a lot of people that have to get in under the like baseball does, like under like the Legends committee or whatever.
Yeah.
That get them in. Like there's a lot of people that wait a long time to get into the Football Hall of Fame that probably should be in already.
Yeah, Calvin Johnson should get in, and obviously Peyton Manning's a slam dunk.
Yeah, Peyton, and also I would say Charles Wilson's also slam dunk to get in.
Yeah, I agree on that.
Yeah, for sure.
Do we have what quarterbacks from the Lions would be in there?
Bobby Lane.
Bobby
Yeah,
Lane.
Bobby Lane.
about it.
None in recent memory.
I don't think there's anybody else.
No Eric Hipple. No. Who's the piano player? Harrington.
Joey Ballgame?
No Joey Harrington.
Joey
No Gary Danielson. No Eric Kramer.
I don't know if that was really his.
Steve Mitchell.
No.
Not Mitchell, yeah.
No Rodney Pete. No.
Rodney Pete.
No.
If Stafford, I think if Stafford wins a Super Bowl, He might be, but without it, I think he's on without any playoff wins, I think he's on the bubble.
He needs a trade.
Does Matthew Stafford get into the Hall of Fame if he never wins a playoff game?
Let's call your brother up, Dave, because our show's over.
We already know his answer.
Yeah.
His answer on that.
Yeah, it's take that.
We already know his answer.
Did he wish your mom happy birthday on the air?
My brother? Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sure he did not.
We better call his show and make sure. Hi, Jeff. First time, long time. Happy birthday to your mom. Hey, do you think Stafford's a Hall of Famer without any playoff wins? I'll take my answer off here. Thanks.
That would be great.
I like first time, long time.
I know.
Well, tomorrow, Facebook, only 1 hour of this of the great Kibitz. So
the big Kibitz is
be
only
ready.
from 5 to 6
Bring your
tomorrow.
A games tomorrow, boys, because we only got 1 hour. So
The other quarterback in the Hall of Fame is Earl Dutch Clark.
Okay.
How could we forget?
Who could
Class
forget
of
Earl?
1963. He played in the 30s.
Yeah, there we go. Great.
It's back when football was football. All right. See you guys tomorrow.
Take
All
care.
right,
Wear
great
your
stuff,
helmets.
guys. Peace.
Your leather helmets.